I've always believed in spending a lot of time, energy, and money on myself and my own growth, both personally as well as in business. I find that the more I invest in myself, the more I'm able to bring value to other people and grow my business, as well as become a better person. I've often heard it said from my wife and my kids that I'm becoming a better dad, or I'm becoming a better husband as I grow in these ways, and I believe that, and it's worth the time and energy. Actually, somebody yesterday was asking me, Mark, how much have you spent? This is an estimate. How much have you spent on yourself in education and growth? And it's been between $150,000 to $200,000, somewhere in there right now. I'm hoping to spend more and more as time goes by because I continue to grow. Now again, that's money. There's also a lot of time and energy commitment. I spend usually a few hours every morning just getting ready for the day and making sure that I'm in the right place, preparing myself, learning, growing, reading, all of those things. Now, I wanted to share a quick story because I've promised it to a number of people. When I was early on in business, I hired a coach. And I didn't know a lot about coaching at the time. I had worked on my psych degree, so I understood communication. I understood how to help people change and that kind of stuff. But I didn't know a lot about business and coaching in general. So I hired this person on a recommendation from somebody else. And it ended up being a terrible decision in many ways. What happened was I paid for a year of coaching up front. Well, I didn't pay for it up front, but I committed to pay for it up front. When I commit to do something, I typically follow through with that. So it was costing me quite a bit of money. I think it was about $1,300 a month, $1,300 a month. And I didn't have a ton of cash in the beginning, but I thought, hey, I'm going to invest in myself, make sure I get the most out of this that I can. Now this individual, I'm not going to complain about this individual because they were a good human being. This man, he was out east. He knew business. He understood his own business. He understood some of the things that I was trying to get into. He had integrity. He was honest. He was willing to help. He wanted to help me, and he was always on time for calls. Like, I've got zero complaints about all that stuff. And this is how the conversations went. At least one of the first couple of conversations went. After we got to know each other, he would say, hey, listen, okay, based on your goals, these are the things that you want to do. And I would say, yeah, absolutely. And he'd say, okay, these are some action steps I want you to take. And he would load me up with action steps, and the week would go by, and I was scared of doing some of these things. I was scared of cold calling. I was scared of selling things to people. I was scared of asking money from people. I was scared of doing other things in my business that were hard for me at the time. And so I procrastinated on them, and I wouldn't get them all done. Sometimes I'd get like a few things done, but often I didn't get them done. And the next call would go something like this. You would say, hey, Mark, how's it going? Great. How'd you do on your tasks? And I said, I didn't get them all done. And he would say, oh, okay, do you know the importance of these tasks? Yep. Do you know how they're going to improve your business? Yep. And then he would explain a few more things. He would say, okay, so for this week, get those tasks done. I'd say, okay. Now, eventually the phone calls started going like this. Same start. And after the whole rigmarole of, do you know why this is important for your business? And yada, 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 I would say, yeah. I would say, I know why this is important. I know that it's important. I know that I'm not doing it, and that's hurting me. The problem for me is not the knowledge. The problem for me is that I need to understand, or even if I don't understand, I need to get past what's stopping me. It's preventing me from doing, something is preventing me from getting things done. I'm procrastinating on things. There are things that I don't want to do, and I'm not doing them. And even though I think that they're important for me, sometimes there was even something that I did want to do, like write a blog post or whatever it was. I wouldn't get it done. And what I need help from you right now is I need help in getting past that barrier. I need to start doing the things I already know I need to do. And he had no answer for me. This is by the end of like 6 weeks. He had zero answers for me. And so we went on weekly calls. We had weekly calls for the rest of the year. Extremely disappointed in them, not because he was a bad guy. He wasn't. He was a fantastic human being. But here's what I learned early on. There's a difference between a good person and a good quality coach. The difference is not in how much information they have. The main difference is how they help people get past themselves, how they get people unstuck, help people get unstuck, and empower them to do things on their own, the things that they know they need to do. They already know they need to do them, but they're not doing them. That's really the difference between a good coach and a bad coach, or a good teacher and a poor teacher. This has happened many times in my own coaching experience, because I had vowed when I became a psychologist and then a coach that I wouldn't do this to other people, that I would really dig down and figure this out for people and help them in the process. It's extremely important to me. There are a lot of examples in history of coaches, people that were world-class coaches that were not the best at what they were coaching. I'll give you an example. There's a really famous example of a man named Bill Bowerman. He was somebody who was the undisputed best track coach of his day. He coached the U.S. Olympic team. He developed shoes for Nike. He was actually Phil Knight's coach in university. He was brilliant. He coached more 4-minute milers than anybody else, and got far better improvement from people than anybody else could get. And when you look at Bill Bowerman's past, he played a little bit of football, but he wasn't actually even a great track athlete. Now, here's the crazy thing. Some people would say, do I go to the person, like if they've got an option between two people, do I go with the person who's got the best track record of their own business? Or do I find somebody who's the best coach? Most people would choose the former. We're often blinded by flashy things like, oh, I've done this in business. What we need to ask ourselves, and by the way, it's important that somebody understands business. It's important that somebody has a track record. It's important that somebody gets that stuff. Having said that, both need to be there. And somebody, if you're hiring Bill Gates or whoever it is, Warren Buffett or whoever it is to teach you or coach you in business, that's great. But you got to keep in mind that just because they're great at their own business doesn't mean they're going to be a great coach. Here's what I want to recommend that you do. Challenge yourself to find somebody that you connect with. And there are kind of a few criteria that I use when I'm finding my own coaches in my own life. One, I ask myself, do I like this person and do I connect with them? Are they somebody who I like to be around? Am I going to be able to be honest with them because I like them and I respect them in some ways? Do I connect with them? Secondly, are they going to be brutally honest with me at times? Are they going to say the difficult thing? I remember just having a conversation 2 weeks ago with a client who was doing something that she didn't want to do. This was a client who sometimes gets unfocused at times. And I was bringing her back and saying, hey, listen, you don't want to hear this right now, and that's okay. But you've hired me for a specific purpose. You've hired me to keep you focused. You've expressed that in the first meeting. This is getting you unfocused. So I am going to challenge you. Don't get lost in this. Focus on what the most important things, and I brought her back to the most important things. You need somebody who's going to be able to do that for you. Because if they're not honest with you, if they're just a friend, that doesn't do anything for you, right? You can find friends for a lot less money and time and energy. And then thirdly, you want somebody who does have some expertise, okay? So they've got expertise in two realms. One is the realm that you're curious about, investing in real estate or business or personal development, whatever it is. And then the second part is that they need to be able to coach you. They need to be able to get results. They need to be able to push you and pull you and help you and motivate you in order to get past certain things so that you have the skills eventually. The best coaches are actually people who work themselves out of a job, in my opinion. There are some people who are going to hire me for a couple of years, and that's okay. But eventually, I need to work myself out of a job. If I'm around forever, it's probably not the ideal in many ways, right? I want to empower people and then they can do it on their own. One quick thought before I leave. This idea of I know what I need to do, but I'm not doing it happens all over the place. I see it every day. I know my kids, they say, hey, yeah, I want to get the dishes done, or I want to get chores done, or I want to make my bed, or I want to do these things, and they don't get it done. But this happens for adults all the time. How many of you know how to eat healthier? Do you do it? How many of you know what's going to give you better physical health through exercise? Do you do it? How many of you know that sleep is important and getting to bed early and getting up earlier actually helps most people in the day? They're far more productive. Do you do it? How many of you know how to better communicate with your partner, with your kids, or with friends, or whoever it is, even in the moment of a heated moment? Do you do it? This is the question that I ask myself all the time. There's a difference between knowing what we need to do and doing it. And getting over that hump is actually the biggest service I believe coaches can provide people. Now, really quickly, I'd be awful if I didn't let people know about this. I'm starting a couple of groups pretty soon. let me know if you're interested. I'm starting groups that are basically giving the soft skills of business. So those skills of self-motivation and how to influence others and how to make a difference in your business in the ways you already know you need to do, but need to start doing it. If you want help with some of that stuff, please let me know. You can do this fairly easily. You can text me at 403-816-9501. That's a 403-816-9501. You can send me an email, mark@markfrentz.com. It's very simple to do. And what I'll commit to do in that conversation, if we connect, is to ask you a few questions and to see, is this a good fit for you? Because a lot of people, it's not a good fit for them. Some people aren't ready for coaching, and sometimes I'm too busy or other things are going on where I'm not able to help certain people where they're at right now. So give me a call, send me a message, let me know if you are curious about this or interested in this, and I'll give you a little bit more information. Enjoy your week.